local you make content, the more authentic, the more universal it becomes. The most interesting version of the project was the one that would be most reflective of the culture that it comes from.
Hi everyone! Welcome back to IGLOO Campfire, episode 5. You're here with us, Rose and Nush, from IGLOO IP development team. Today, we have a very special guest with nearly 30 years of experience in animation industry. He worked on many well-known shows you might have watched, such as Angry Birds Summer Madness, Super Team 4, and Angela Rules. Now, let's get the inside scoop on executive producer work through 5 exclusive questions. Please give a warm welcome to Tom van Waveren. Okay, I will start with the first and the most important questions, which is, who are you and what do you do?
So, who am I? That's a good question. My name's, as you say, it's Tom van Waveren. I've been working in animation since the mid-90s. And what I do is that I identify projects that I feel have potential for the international market. And then I help with, or I work with a team always, of course, because it's always a team effort to develop the creative concept. But also in such a way that it can also find a place in the market. I always like to find stories that are both authentic from where they're coming from and at the same time will appeal to a broader audience from how they're being told.
So you have been working with creators around the world. Do you notice any differences between creators in each region, or is it depends on the individuals?
I don't know that there's actually a big difference. I think that some people are natural storytellers, and most natural storytellers haven't really asked themselves the question, why should they tell a story? They just want to. And what I have found is that, no, actually I think there's much more that it is quite universal in that also people that are the most talented storytellers love an interactive process. They like to meet other people that have, like them, a passion for storytelling. And they will tell their stories to those people to then get to hear what they think of that story because they try to make it better. What is interesting though is that I've worked with different creators from Latin America. Probably 30 years ago there was very little children's content. But then when Cartoon Network started their international channels, they were one of the first channels for children in Latin America. And so you see that now is a whole generation of creators that grew up on watching Cartoon Network for 20 years and more. And so what you see in their style of storytelling is actually in Latin America, there is, of course, the local storytelling tradition, but a big part in animation is also growing up watching Cartoon Network. And there's you see that in the way, the pacing in which they tell their stories, the way they edit image, all of that is very much taking on board those references. In Europe, the eyes for content are more on America. And then being here in Asia, what's interesting is to see the importance of Japanese content. Nobody comes close to the influence of anime and manga, because that's been around for many more years and is closer culturally than what comes from abroad. So I think the interesting thing is, and you see that now, that with particularly with the internet, see the youngest generation of creators, they take their references from all around the world. They become less and less local because they have access to so many. They go looking online across the world for things that inspire them. And I think from that point of view, it's really interesting that at the moment, creators from around the world are trying to do their own version of anime.
I see.
Particularly in the countries that were first more focused on North America, Disney and Hollywood, and that you can often see that in how they then create their own content. And so I think that's true geographically. It's also true from an industry point of view. I've noticed often that people, for instance, people that might come from advertising or from fashion or from music, and they are fans of animation, then when they start creating animation, it's really exciting because they know the codes as a fan and not as somebody from the industry. And so they make something that is actually much more original because they don't know that there's rules to follow, so they make their own rules, and then the end product becomes much more interesting. So that's why I always think it's like very exciting to work with new voices and bring new people into teams and projects.
Today we are in Thailand, right?
Okay.
You and IGLOO has been working for quite some time. I heard that it's 7 years already. So I would like to know your thoughts about like Thai arts in terms of like architecture, design in food.
Over those years, we've talked a lot about, and particularly to the project that we've been developing together, that the most interesting version of the project was the one that would be most reflective of the culture that it comes from. I think that when you see Thai art, and whether it is through the storytellings, and how do you call the theater?
Cone.
Cone.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The visuals there are so striking and distinctive and strong. There's such a wonderful basis from which to work, and a diversity and a history. And just and you see the same in the food, right? It's very diverse. Everything's super colorful. No, the food as well as the architecture, as well as the costumes in Cone. So I think there's so much to take inspiration from. And I think the more you can do that, it doesn't mean that all of it needs to have all of that, but there is a lot to base it on. And the more local you make content, the more authentic, the more universal it becomes. And so I think people mistake often to make something internationally attractive that it needs to look international. I actually think it needs to be universally true to storytelling, and ultimately the relationship between individuals. If you tell a character-based story, people from all over the world will be able to relate to it. They have a challenge to overcome. We follow from the perspective of that character that journey, and once they overcome it, they come in a new situation, which is better once they've gone through the crisis and have a new situation, which is better, hopefully, for them. Depending on where you want to take it. But yes, now for me, for an international audience, a character story is the easiest one to follow.
We're talking about the storytelling, and while we're working, we're doing a lot as well. So I wonder, how was your experience working with us as well for many years?
That journey has been interesting, and then the other discussions we've had a lot over the years is how authentic can we make it? Do we want to make it? And if we do that, what elements do we use for that? And what feels natural to the world that we want to do? There is the deep storytelling in this world is actually very universal. How do we make it universal? It's by making it as authentic as possible. So yeah, no, I think that's been. So I've really enjoyed that, and it's learning. It taught me a lot about not only the group here at IGLOO, but also Thai culture and society and history, and which goes back to that was the same thing for what we've seen over the last few days, like walking around in palaces and temples and eating many interesting dishes and understanding their heritage as well, because they also each have a story. I think there is bringing that riches into what we've been creating as worlds and stories.
I'm curious about you have been in this industry, and what do you think is the most rewarding feelings or experience working in animation or working with the creators?
I think it's to get from an idea to a fully developed concept. And ironically, some of the concepts that I have been most excited about have not been produced, but it still was a journey from beginning to end, because we started with an idea that was trying to find a way to be expressed, and then with a team we got it from there to something that was fully understood and appreciated and complimented on. The most wonderful feeling is, of course, when you then also get to make it and it becomes as good as you imagined. That to me is the most satisfying part of the process. I think that process, I could do that, and I have been doing it nearly every day for 25 years, and I could do it easily for another 25. Creating a process around not changing that idea but building on it, I think is super rewarding.
So thank you so much for your time today, Tom.
You're welcome.
This is our pleasure. So for anyone who has any questions about like executive producer or other roles, if you would like us to interview other titles in animation industry, please feel free to leave your comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in next episode. Thanks.
Bye.
Know there then at that time, what I've learned over time is that food is an important thing.
To me,
Yes.
to Thai people. So when Mr. Tom come to see us like for the whole week, we have actually I planned for him for like every meal, every dinners for him to have like a different experience, to make sure that he knows like a Thai flavors. It's well designed, yes.
Yeah.